I want to introduce Katya from MiblArt. Katya, could you tell us a little bit about yourself in MiblArt?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to see you all here. And this is like an exciting opportunity to learn something new today or refresh knowledge you already have about book cover designing. Well, my name is Katya. I work as an account manager in the book cover design company called MiblArt. We specialize in, designing book covers, logo design, interior formatting, and I've been working there for over 3 years now. And this helped me to gain some knowledge, and which I'm very happy to share with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I'd love to just start the conversation just pretty general. Like, what are some of the key elements that books should have on their covers?
When designing a book cover, there are a few key elements that we always keep in mind. First and foremost, the title has to be clear and easy to read. You want it to be bold enough and stand out, and also be harmonized with the overall design. The author's name is important, especially if it's like a well-known author, or if it's like a series, the author name has to stand out and be readable at the first glance. Then, apart from typography, we have imagery. This is often the first thing that catches a reader's eye, whether it's an illustration, photograph, or an abstract design. The imagery should really capture the essence of the book. It's like a visual teaser for what's inside the book. If it's like a mystery, for example, maybe you have some dark, shadowy figures or suspenseful scene, or like if it's a romance, you expect something else from the imagery. Um, then color is another big thing for the book cover designing, because colors can evoke different certain feelings and set the tone before the reader even gets to read the blurb. For example, I guess we'll talk later about the color psychologist, so I will not get into that so far. Um, well,
We can we
also,
can we can talk about we can talk about the psychology of the different colors as well. And then also, I guess related to that, like to what degree do the designers tell the authors what they think in terms of that? Or is that something that more the author is expected to tell the designer what colors they're looking for?
for the colors, it's good to listen to the suggestions of the designer, because there are actually some genre standards in terms of the colors. Sometimes an author who doesn't have any graphic design experience, they might not know the skills that designers have in terms of color psychology. So they might say, I like blue color, so I want this for my romance book cover. But then it's not really what a potential reader might expect from this kind of a color.
Do the designers at MiblArt, do they specialize in particular genre? Like, is there a designer who's really good at romance covers and another designer that focuses more on like fantasy, sci-fi, etc.? How does that work with the team?
Yes, right. We have six in-house designers, and this is why we can actually um, allow to offer the cover designing in different genres, because, as you said, it works for us as well. One designer specializes more in romance book covers, for example, and their subgenres, and then they have other subgenres maybe they like or they do often. So it's usually like from two to three, four main genres they design in. It also depends on the designer's preference. Not every graphic designer works in every single genre. This is, I would say, almost impossible, because they also have preferences what genres they like to work in. So yeah, it's good when you have a more narrow niche, but you tailor your skills exactly in that niche.
We had a question from the audience related to this. How does an artist decide what to put on a book cover? Do they does the author give them a suggestion of what they should think should be on the book cover, or does the cover designer, do they just read the synopsis of the book and then come up with something themselves? Or does the cover designer read the entire book, or what? Like how does it get decide what's going to go onto the cover?
Well, as we are service providers, this is actually up to the author to decide. If they come to us with a clear idea what they want, we are the ones who has to execute the idea and please the customer. But it's also normal if you don't have any idea what you want to see on the cover. In this case, the designer comes up with a suggestion. We have on our website, on our main page, we have a free cover idea form where you can fill in some information about the book. For example, brief summary of the book, what is the genre, what target audience do you want to reach, and then our designer comes up with some suggestions that is shows your story well as fits the market, so it's actually a marketable book cover. There are different approaches to that. Not many designers read the whole book. You might
Yeah.
find some who do, but keep in mind that this is also time consuming for the designer to do, and it will cost much more money. So this is not so efficient because sometimes it doesn't it doesn't matter if the designer knows everything about your book, because what you want to do is not to show the whole story on the book cover. You want to give hints, and want to intrigue a person, attract attention, and then they read your book. It's a bad strategy to treat your designer as one of your target audiences to read the book.
Makes sense. Artists, they're not going to read the entire book, but will sometimes they like will an author like give a cover designer like a scene, maybe like 2 or 3 pages from the book, and like have them read that scene and then come up with a depiction of what would be good for the cover from that scene? Is that pretty common?
That's totally fine. It's common if an author already have some certain ideas and he
Okay.
want the designer to know more about the scene they want to portray in a book cover, then it's totally fine to send a couple of chapters to read. Otherwise, as I said, it's not so necessary to tell your story on the book cover.
Right.
It's all about the hints.
Right. Okay. That makes a ton of sense. How common is it that a cover design will not match a scene from the book at all necessarily?
It also depends on the genre of the book, because for
Yeah.
example, for let's say fantasy and sci-fi, some of the book covers are illustrated, so it's very common they portray like a snippet of the story, maybe
Okay.
like the characters, they have an
Right.
adventure somewhere, so it's like intriguing for the reader. But for other genres, it's totally not common to portray anything from the story. For example, for romantasy, now we see this trend where you have a lot of objects on the cover, maybe it's typography centered, so you can just get hints of the story by the colors and by the objects you see on the cover. But yeah, it's all about the genre standards as well.
Got it. Yeah, and it's so variable by genre too, and each genre has their own specific sort of things that is important to them. And that was one of my questions, was how important is genre specific design in book covers? I would imagine extremely important, because you kind of have to meet what readers are expecting for that genre. I know, like, I read a ton of lit RPG is like the particular genre that I write, and it seems like every every cover is like a guy who's like got his back to the reader, and then you see like this giant monster that's coming at him, right? So it's quite it's pretty specific to the genre. Do the cover designers look at what's currently popular in the market for a particular genre?
Yes, of course. And this is also why we get paid for, not for only our graphic design skills, but also knowledge of the market and what kind of book cover will actually sell and genre-wise. Um, so for this genre standards, I want to tell you one thing. It might be
Yeah.
controversial, but well, um,
I'm here
I
for
will
it.
just
I love the controversy. Please tell
uh,
us.
yeah, I'll just share some theory. It's your right if you want to listen to me or not. Well, anyway, so some might say that a cover has to stand out from the crowd and be very different, and so this is only how you can get this noticeability on the market. However, the approach can be misleading sometimes. Can be, not always, but there is a concept in psychology called the mere exposure effect. or it's also called familiarity principle. What is it exactly? It's the mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomenon in which people tend to believe they like something or they don't like something just based on what is familiar to them. So for instance, our brain really loves comfort zone. So when you are, for example, shopping for groceries, and you cannot find your favorite brand of tomato sauce, it's really likely that the next option you will choose is the tomato sauce that look like the brand you like, just because you're familiar with maybe the colors or the shape of the packaging. This is just how our brains work when we want to avoid stress. So this mere exposure effect can be also like a trick for authors if they want to say to the author like, hey, my book cover looks like that one you read and you loved it, so you might want to try mine as well. Maybe you will love it as well. And at the end of the day, there should be a balance between creative experiments and science behind how customers think.
In speaking of the science behind how customers think, we actually got a question. Someone asked, do you guys do any split testing of images? Like we'll test this cover with, certain people and we'll test this cover with other people. Do you guys have your own sort of a group of readers or anything like that that you'll test against?
Most of our designers, they work from the office place, so they normally collaborate and they share they might like share the designs, their work, and of course, it's very important to ask for outside opinions and perspectives. For this kind of testing, we just so we have an option in MiblArt to get a book cover with an additional concept. It means that two book cover designers will be working on your project, and you will get two covers. In this case, we give you some time to think which cover you like and which design you want to proceed with. And the author is more than welcome go to maybe Facebook groups or show it to friends and family to ask which cover they like more. Yeah, they decide which design they want to proceed with. However,
Gotcha.
about this feedback thing, I need to mention that asking for feedback is great. Like you should be critical about things. However, you need to also prioritize feedback from either fellow authors who work in the same genre because they also did their research. They probably know the market. You can learn from them, or you can ask for feedback for other graphic designers who have actually experience working in your genre. This is very important because a lot of feedback is just subjective. Somebody might say, oh, I don't feel I like this, without any criticism, constructive criticism. So this is like not a good approach to just accept any feedback you see online.
Yeah,
And
I think that's incredibly important to note because everyone has their own particular subjective tastes, and if you only get feedback from two or three people, that's a very small sample size, and they might not represent the actual readers of the genre and what their tastes are like necessarily. So I do think that's quite important. So it sounds like more of the idea of doing like the split testing and seeing what the audience like, that is something that would be more on the author's plate to do. You guys can offer a couple of concept designs and provide those to the author, and then the author would be the one that would need to get feedback from potential readers about what designs that they might like more. And I think one interesting thing there is someone suggested do a split test on BookBub and get feedback from actual book readers and not other artists. That's an interesting idea. The other idea that you could do is you could potentially create Facebook ads and run Facebook ads for the two book cover designs and just see which one is getting more clicks, right? That would be another great way to do it. But again, that would be something that the author would need to do. MiblArt doesn't do that kind of thing, correct?
for designers in MiblArt, we always take a step back and look at the
Right.
cover in context with other books in the same genre. And designers sometimes ask some questions. For example, doesn't stand out while still fitting in with what readers expect, or doesn't communicate the right mood and tone. Um, And the tip for the authors as well, what you can do, is to just screenshot the webpage of Amazon bestsellers list in your genre and try to put your book cover in one of the places of a book and see you think it fits in perfectly, or maybe it stands out too much that this is like disturbing, it looks out of the plate.
That's a great idea. I love the idea of taking a screenshot of just the books on Amazon in your category that are doing well, and then putting your book cover on top of one of them and seeing does it fit along. Because I think having that context can provide you with a lot of just at an instant. It's like, oh, this one of these things is not like the other. That you don't get when it's just you're looking at that image by itself. So even if you don't run Facebook ads or do some like split testing on BookBub or something like that, which would require a lot more work, just a very simple, take a screenshot of Amazon books and put that one in. That is like a much easier sort of test to run, and that makes a ton of sense. So that's a great tip. I also wanted to ask, when you're doing that two concept design, how does that work? Is the author just giving or is the cover designer just giving the author like two works in progress? Like, here's two like simplified versions, or is the author paying for two full cover designs?
We call it the first draft of a cover. It's
Okay.
normally only an ebook. However, to be honest, sometimes our first drafts, they are like finished designs already, like there are no revisions needed. So we try to show our best to also impress our customer. We provide unlimited revisions for our services. If the author wants to change something, we go for it. But yes, sometimes this first draft is already like the author just says, okay, guys, please finalize it, and we send the final files.
Okay, awesome. And someone asked in that regard as well, can we add on to orders? For instance, start with one concept, then add a second one for the same two concept package, then add promo materials, print, etc., all hinging on the satisfaction with each stage. So is there like, so can they start with essentially one cover and then decide whether or not they want to do another one or add on like the print formatting and stuff like that as well later on in the process?
Yes, certainly. We are highly flexible with
Okay.
these things. We keep your files for years. So authors come back to us in 1 year, 2 years, and like, oh, remember me? We did this project together. I need audiobook formatting right now. And we're always happy to help with that. For changing the cover itself, we offer unlimited revisions within one concept. So if author comes to us, whether we already gave an idea what we are going to portray, or author comes with their idea, we are willing to do revisions within this concept we discussed, because otherwise it's fine to change your mind, but it may take, like, we also need to limit this approach with unlimited revisions. If you feel the concept you wanted doesn't look like this is something you like, you can either cancel at no charge, we don't have any cancellation fee, or you can just pay for another concept and see which one you like more and then choose.
Okay. And when it comes to book covers, how do the rights around those book covers work? When an author commissions MiblArt or any other book cover artist for that matter, are they buying that piece of artwork and they can use it in any way that they want?
For the rights of the book cover, MiblArt grants all the rights that we have for the book cover design. However, since we work with stock images, they might have their own rules in terms of how can you use this image. And some major things that we warn about is you can sell unlimited number of book covers. You can use this book cover design for your book cover, for your book promotion in any way you want. However, if your book runs 500,000 physical copies, then you are required to acquire another kind of license for the stock images. MiblArt uses standard license, which has these limitations. Normally, it's enough for our clients, to be honest. However, there is a risk of running 500,000 copies. Well, I think if you do it, like nothing is a problem for you anymore. You know,
Yeah,
you are so successful.
right.
Then we will just send links to the images we used for the design so the author can purchase them to extend these limitations. Also, it goes for the merch design. If author wants to use their book cover for selling merch, it's also falls under some rules of stock websites. So they should acquire another kind of license. However, these rules don't spread to illustrated projects. For example, as I said, we design logo designs completely from scratch. So there are not any limits how can you use it, because as I said, MiblArt grants you all the rights that we have.
What is the source for the images and things that might be used on the book covers? Is there a particular stock photo website or service that you guys use?
Yeah, sure. We use several options. Um, some well-known stock images providers are Shutterstock, Getty Images, Adobe Stock, and Deposit Photos.
Okay.
So you can see their pricing plans and decide which one works best for you. And also, as I said about licensing and stuff, make sure to read their terms and conditions if you're going to design your own book covers, so you exactly know what rights you have. Um, Also, an advice is when you use stock images for your book cover, still there should be some photo manipulation with them, because otherwise, thousands of people can upload this image of a model, and then you have thousands of book covers with the same model, which like doesn't look really professional. So this is why people hire people who don't have graphic design skills, they hire graphic designers so they can actually have 10 images and mix them up and make something completely unique, which will not be so recognizable.
That makes a ton of sense. And in that regard, with the advent of, generative AI and all of this AI artwork, does MiblArt use any AI artwork in their cover design process?
No, we don't use AI because we've been researching this question, and we saw a lot of we saw position of the authors, what their preference is, so we decided to not use it and stick
Got it.
to our traditional ways, slides and stock images or unique work like digital art.
Let's say there's 3 or 4 stock images that the cover designer wants to use in the artwork. How does that work? Does the author need to pay for the licenses for those individual images that get included in that cover that MiblArt designs?
We pay for these services.
Okay.
It's subscription based, so the author doesn't need to worry about any images on the cover. We get it covered.
Okay, awesome.
However, if there is some specific vision an author has and there is some specific image they want to use, they can always send the link. And if we use the service, we can download this for the author without problem. Or perhaps designer already sent 50 images of a male model, but an author says like still something off. I don't quite like it. Then we can offer for you to, okay, if you want, you can also search for yourself. If like there are no options which you like, we can collaborate on this as well. But yeah, we don't require anyone to search for the images. We do it ourselves.
Can you talk a little bit about font choice and font colors as well when it comes to cover design?
We use the services for fonts. One of them is Invato, for example, where we get licensed fonts we use. And sometimes we also do the customization of the fonts so they look more interesting, maybe adding some glyphs, for example, or some we change the typography a little bit to integrate more with the background design. There was some funny meme about this typography thing. So for example, the phrasing, I will always find you. If you think about it, this is written in a script, like with the
Mm,
beautiful like glyphs and stuff, so decorative. Then you think about what genre? Of course, maybe romance or like some memoir. But if you have the same text, I will always find you, written in a, let's say, like I don't know, some scary or
some
it's
sort
in
of like
red.
gothic font or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
gothic. Then you will not get the same feeling, even though the message is the same. So this is why the fonts are important. Um, but it's not only about how they look, it's also about the readability, as I said. Because if people cannot read the title or the author's name at glance, then the typography doesn't do its job. So the best practice is to keep it simple. Sometimes it can be tempting to mix and match multiple fonts, but it can quickly become too cluttered and just confusing that it will not look professional. So here's the tip to stick for one or two complementary fonts, and like most of the time it's enough for a striking book cover design. And it's very important in typography doesn't look like a afterthought. Like imagery is one thing, typography just like slapped on the image itself. It's like, like some authors, they do use AI for their book covers, and then they have this uh artwork, I don't know, like the ones that you might imagine you see in the museum, and then they just use some free font from Microsoft Office like Comic Sans, and
Yeah.
it just looks so off, and it does look amateurish. And when you work on your book, you're also selling the product for your clients, for your customers, like for the authors. So if they see this kind of approach where it's not professional, they might associate what they see on the front cover with what is inside the book. It's like, let's say, okay, if this person didn't invest in their book cover design, maybe they didn't invest in editing as well or
Right.
formatting, then why would I waste my time and money on this kind of product? So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
I do
also
think
about
that's
this.
incredibly important. I mean, a lot of times, people do judge a book by its cover, and if you haven't invested in having a nice cover, a lot of readers will also assume that you have not invested in editing or really polishing up that story. And so you always want to sort of put your best foot forward and make sure that, the first thing they see isn't something that looks really sloppy, like putting Comic Sans on top of like an AI generated artwork or something like that. In that regard, someone also asked, does the designer pull the colors of the fonts from the images in the backgrounds?
If I understood this question correctly, there should be a contrast, of course, between the typography and the background color. So I don't know if I got this question wrong. You can correct me. But if the colors they're too alike, then there will not be a clear contrast, so it will affect the readability of the cover. Um, I have a tip for this, by the way. If you are doubting what if the typography is contrasting enough with the imagery, you can just use the grayscale for your design. It can be done in any editor, even on your phone. Just black, you can just turn on like grayscale, and then in this case, you can see how your typography stands out or not, or if in a grayscale it's kind of just like one blend image.
I think that's a great tip because for a lot of times, like, people are reading on, a Kindle, like Paperwhite or something, or a basic Kindle. They're not reading on a Kindle Fire or their phone or something like that. And when they're looking at the book cover on that Kindle, it's going to be in black and white. Regarding font as well, someone asked, if an author has the rights to a font that they've paid for, can they request that MiblArt use that font if MiblArt doesn't have the font from their provider? So if, say, an author bought a custom font, will you guys use that font from them?
Yes, of course. In our order form, we in our creative brief, we have a space where we ask, do you have the rights to use your provided materials? Because sometimes authors want to incorporate their own images on the book cover, and of course, if you are the one who took this image, you don't need to have any copyright worries about this. But then you should tell us, state if you have the rights. It goes to the font as well, because this is like our written agreement. So it's safe for both of us that you state if you have the rights for us to use this kind of assets you provide.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. I want to switch back. We've been talking a lot about the various rights of images and fonts and stuff that like that. I want to talk a little bit more about the cover design process, though. What are some common mistakes that authors make when it comes to cover design?
Okay, well, authors are sometimes authors might be so passionate about showing so much on their book cover that they are just their aim is to tell the story. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not the goal of a book cover to tell the story. So if you want to try to cram in too many elements, it can overwhelm the design and confuse potential readers. It's often better to focus on the strong image or concept that really captures the essence of the book. Um, Readability, again, I cannot just stress enough how important it is. I've seen covers where the title or author's name is hard to read, especially in smaller sizes, like thumbnails, for example. And if the text is not legible, well, it doesn't matter how beautiful the rest of the cover is. People will not remember the title, will not remember who wrote the book. So it's highly important. Then the issue is genre misalignment. Again, it's all about giving the wrong expectations to your reader. If they pick up the book, for example, they they want a sweet romance to read, but then just the cover mm, doesn't the cover shows them the feel of sweet romance, but then they open up and there's some like erotica, or let's say something they don't want to read. This just leads to the reader's disappointment.
Right.
And finally, designing a cover without having graphic design skills, I suppose. Um, because there's so many like people literally studied graphic design for years in universities, they take courses. So it's not like you can study this overnight and design like the perfect cover overnight. Um, somebody may tend to use low quality images or generic stock photos, and it will just look amateurish. So it's totally worth investing in in visuals, unique visuals that will tell your story.
Yeah, I think
Or
that makes it.
your education, if you want to be in like one orchestra man, you want to do everything, then you can just watch some courses, spend some time to learn the theory. If you have this time and you have the enthusiasm to learn something new, it's totally fine. You can find a lot of courses, let's say on, I don't know, on Udemy. There's many YouTube videos. It's a fun, graphic design is a really fun skill, but you need to know that this is the time consuming. So what are
Yeah.
your priorities here?
For sure. Yeah, I graphic design is not an easy thing, and I think that a lot of times it's easy for people to think, I'm going to handle it all. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do all the editing. I'm going to do the cover design. I'm writing the book. And people have to think about what is the best use of their time and what are things that are worth outsourcing. I think for cover design, where it's a skill that takes years to develop and refine, I think that it makes a ton of sense to outsource the cover design to someone else and not to try to do that yourself, because it is not something that you can learn over the course of a week and then be good at it and do it well. So going to something you said earlier though about the difference between, authors, one of the common mistakes is authors want to kind of tell the whole story of their book in that book cover, right? And they just have too many things on that cover. Is there a good sort of rule of thumb around like how much is too much? Is like is having more than 5 characters, is that too many for a book cover? Is there like a rule of thumb around like the number of characters on a cover or objects in the background?
There are no specific rules in book cover designing, but they are in graphic design in general. So it's all about the composition, and you can learn about the focal, like there should be a focal point of your book cover, and also there should be hierarchy, how you lead your eye in a book cover design. Sometimes, yeah, you place a lot of elements, but they work so well together just because for maybe some elements they're on the background, some on the foreground, so it's totally fine. For the characters, for example, yeah, it's not so common to include too many characters because because like mm, if there are too many characters, then how can you lead your eye and like have this hierarchy in the design? Normally, our clients ask us to have like from 1 to 3 characters on the cover. However, I saw some book covers with more characters, and maybe there's a more creative way to incorporate them in the cover design. For example, put them in the background as shadows. So again, just giving hints, because it's not really important if you show all your characters on your book cover. It's not like I don't know, the TV show where you see who is starring in this TV show,
Right.
right? It's not a movie poster or something. Um, so yeah, it's all about the science of graphic design and successful composition you can come up with.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's an interesting idea what you mentioned there, which is, a lot of authors, it's usually between 1 to 3 characters on a cover or something like that. And if you do more, what you've seen sometimes is putting those characters like in shadows by essentially, making them more black and white in the background. It takes your eye, it doesn't take your eye away from the focal point by putting them in sort of black and white in the background or having them sort of shadowed, but you could have them there to show that, for example, if it's like a fantasy world or something and you have characters from all kinds of different races or something, you might have, something shadowed, which is like here's a sort of a minotaur person in the background, or here's a, some sort of other sort of animal person in the background, so you can give hints of that without making that the focus of the book. That makes a ton of sense. Are there any trends that you see in book cover design, just sort of in general, like how things used to be done 10 years ago versus today, and like where you think things might be headed in the future?
Well, first of all, we have like if we compare 10 years and now we have a rise of ebooks. So now it's important to design the book cover for the ebooks that will visible from all screen sizes. Some people they might search for the books on their laptops, which the screen is bigger, some on the phones where the tiny screen. So it's highly important that maybe the book cover should be less complex in this case, more like stand out more, be more bold, have colors that more pop out on the screens. Because for the print book covers, like when there were more paperbacks or hard card covers, well, the canvas are larger, and it also allows the reader to take a closer look at the book, see all the details. So maybe in this case, these complex, highly detailed book covers, they would be more on place than in ebooks. Also now there are a lot of authors tend to do audiobooks, and this is totally different format from ebooks or paperbacks, let's say, because audiobooks they're mostly square. So if you and this is different, like because book covers are normally rectangular. In this case, you need to see how can you readjust the elements on a book cover, which will the same look will be saved. However, it will fit another format, the square format.
I think that is a good point because audiobooks are definitely on the rise, and it represents a huge another income stream for authors that are, writing to turn their ebooks into audiobooks as well. When you guys are designing a book cover, a do you have audiobook in mind when you're just designing that book cover? Like, how does that come into the process?
Depends if author already tells us if they want an audiobook cover or if they come back to us later on and they have this add-on to order an audiobook formatting. So in the first case, it's all about planning. So designer already have the formats in mind which they need to design the cover. So they yeah, it's all about the flexibility and planning. It's I don't know if this is like easier approach since I myself don't design for covers. However, if the author comes back and they need to add another format, then it's more about, yeah, creative approach. What can you change? How can you move the elements so the look will stay the same?
Yeah.
So yeah, like the key is to create a design that can be easily adjusted without losing any impact.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think that's another thing that's just important for authors to think about when they are getting a cover designed is in working with a designer to give them a heads up, even if you don't necessarily need the audiobook format at that point in time, to note to the designer, hey, I think I might turn this into an audiobook at some point.
Yeah, it's not necessary though. Like almost all of, to be honest, almost all of our questions in the creative brief, they're optional. So it's really common that authors come to us and they don't have their title finalized or the blur finalized. And we add these kind of details at no charge without any time limits. So we can just start with an ebook, for example, even though the author might not know what kind of size the book cover is. It's still like rectangular, so it's not like we have too many changes for the overall design. So it's really like we're totally flexible with these things. So if you
That's
want to
awesome.
try MiblArt, yeah, and you are not like you don't have to wait for the perfect moment.
Okay, awesome. And when it comes to moving all of those elements around and things like that, what tools or software do you recommend for cover design to make all of this sort of easier as well?
Well, after if you don't have experience in graphic design, after you've done some courses and watch some YouTube videos about it. Our designers, they use Adobe products such as Photoshop for designing book covers. And also we have the premium design service, which incorporates more 3D elements. So for that one, we use Dust Studio. Um, and sometimes designers also use 3D models for just like our regular packages, but well, it depends on the design. Um, I also heard that people use that authors who want to design their book covers, they use BookBrush or Affinity Publisher. But these softwares are not free. I think there is a one-time payment, but you can check if like if there are new regulations for that. And the free option, the most common one, is Canva. It's like a top choice because it has a lot of templates to use. But be aware if you use images from Canvas library without editing, then you might end up with your book cover look exactly like somebody else's book cover. And if Amazon, for example, asks you for the rights of this image or the rights for the cover design, if your book cover looks exactly the same as somebody else's, then it might be hard to prove to Amazon this is your book cover.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, you want to make sure that if you are doing everything on your own, that you are properly documenting all the licenses that you have for all the things that are included that in that book cover, as we were talking about all that stuff earlier. Um,
Oh, yeah, somebody said that BookBrush is a subscription.
yeah, BookBrush is a subscription if you want to use BookBrush, and they have different tiers as well. There's some stuff that you can do, I think, at the free tier, and then there's some other stuff which does require paying for the subscription. Um, when it comes to that's another good thing to talk about, because one area where I think BookBrush kind of helps out is creating ads for book covers. I'm curious, does MiblArt help out with that, or is that part of a package that you guys offer where you guys will use some of that art to create designs for like Facebook advertising or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Um we design ad images. For example, the banners, website banners, social media group banners, ad images, bookmarks, animated book cover as well. It's like a short video where your cover moves a little bit. And we also offer a package at a discounted price. If you order the book cover design with marketing materials, the price is cheaper. However, you can always add it on later.
Okay, awesome. That's good to know. And
Also, sorry, I forgot to mention promo book cover reveal image. It's where your 3D book is covered, and maybe there is some element that is seen from the cover, so just for creating a trick, or also book release banner where you can see the date when the book is airing and maybe some other elements incorporated from your book cover design on this image.
Gotcha. And in when you're putting together those packages and things like that, I would imagine one of the common things that authors would look for as well, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the importance of having some sort of um, author brand, like a logo or something that you can use across your Facebook, your website, on, included in your, in maybe the in the cover or maybe in the title page on the book. What is the importance of having a logo for your writing?
Depends on how serious do you take your author career, suppose. If you publish one or two books and you don't like you doing it for fun, there's no sense for doing a lot of author branding, of course. But if you want to portray everywhere that I write these sorts of books, this is like I have this specific style, then yeah, I would suggest to go for a logo design, because it's also kind of give a like the colors of the logo and the image, they kind of give a feel at the first glance what kind of books you write. And we actually MiblArt also designs merch design. If you want to start, maybe you have some book quote that you really like, then we can maybe have some like sell some stickers with this with the slogan. Or if I don't know, we can sell different kinds of items, right? This is kind of if you have a good reader base and they are very interested in your works, then it will inspire them as well if you do this sort of things, and it all works for your how you said this, for your branding. Sometimes it's also like visible from the book covers itself. What kind of branding do you have? Let's say, well, everybody knows Stephen King, that his book covers are very similar, but his thing is like to have the gigantic title and gigantic author's name. And this makes it instantly recognizable for this author. If the author is not so famous, it might not make sense to copy someone else, but you can have your own thing for the book cover designs, for example, maybe certain arrangement or certain alignment of the elements on the book cover. And yeah, it's just about experiments and finding your unique thing that feels right for you, and then others will appreciate it.
What are some things that authors need to keep in mind when they are writing a series of books when it comes to the cover design?
For designing a series of book covers, is the key thing is to create a visual identity that ties all the books together, while also allowing each one to have their own unique twist. Our designers usually start by establishing some core design elements that will be consistent across all the book covers. This could be typography, a particular color palette, or a recurring motif that is relevant to the series. Once those elements are in place, we focus on how each book cover stand out within that framework. Maybe each cover has a different dominant color that reflects the tone of the theme of that particular book, or perhaps the imagery changes to highlight a specific character or setting that is central to specifically that story. So the idea is to give each book its own identity while ensuring that when they line up together, it's clear they belong to the same series.
Right, that makes a ton of sense. For example, like if um, like if you have a book about dragons or something, like each book in the series might have, here's a blue dragon in the first book, a green dragon in the second book, a red dragon in the third book, and they're all sort of they're all using the same artistic style, but they're different colors. So it's very recognizable that they're all part of the series, but at the same, they're different books, right? So
Yeah.
or you can have things where, for example, like you were saying, have the typography being the same across all the books in the series is important as well. Or having maybe having the same color across all of the book covers in the series is another way to do it. So those are all good things to keep in mind when you're thinking about book cover design. We are at our close here. It has been an hour, so I don't want to take up more of your time, Katya. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us today. If people have more questions and they want to talk with MiblArt, how do we get in touch with you guys?
Well, visit our website, which is miblart.com, miblart.com, and follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook. Um, we You can also add me on Instagram, which is katya.bookcoverdesign. You can let me know how did you like this webinar, because I'm a fan of feedback. So I would love to hear your thoughts about today's webinar. I really hope that you found something, some new knowledge, or again refresh the knowledge you had. By the way, MiblArt we uploads a lot of educational materials on our website. You can find them in either in our blog. We publish articles on book cover designing and self-publishing, marketing in general for your book. And also in Mibble Academy, we have free email courses you can join to learn something new about book cover design marketing, or there are also a lot of freebies. By the way, we also have a YouTube channel, MiblArt, where we upload videos with speed art of how we design book covers. So if you want to see the sneak peek of how our designers work, you're welcome to check our videos. And we have a little gift for the listeners of this webinar. If you want to try MiblArt services for photo-based book covers or logo design, you can use the promo code StoryOrigin10, and then you will get your 10% discount after you receive the design from us. You completely love it. Then yeah, you can receive the discount for these services.
Awesome. And it's Story Origin 10, all caps, right? That is a great deal. Thank you again so much for coming on. And okay, Katya has also dropped her Insta, katya.bookcoverdesign, or katya@miblart.com. So thank you so much for being so open with your contact info so that authors can reach out to you as well.
I love
And
networking, so I'm having
I know
fun
I
here.
love it too. My inbox is always open as well. If anyone has questions about Story Origin or has trouble getting in contact with Katya, feel free to reach out to me as well. StoryOriginApp.com. You can reach out to me at evan@StoryOriginApp.com. Thank you all for being here today. And as always, feel free to shoot me any questions. I hope everyone has a great rest of their Tuesday, and we'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye, everyone.